My name is Christina, but in Australia it became shortened to Tina. I came with my partner back in 2012. In our home country we were human rights activists and I guess too much active and visible, so we ended up under Australian protection here. When we came to Australia and it was time to decide, okay, what are we doing now? For some time I felt that I could not do any of human rights work again, because there were two feelings. There was a feeling of guilt, before yourself, that you left for the LGBT community, that you did not stand to the end and, you took the decision to leave the country. But also there was a shame for surviving when a lot of queer people who fought for their rights, they didn't. For me, being a queer refugee, I'm in a very tricky situation. I cannot fit into the queer community because they've got no idea what to do with me as a refugee. I cannot fit in the refugee community because I'm queer, and for some people it can be a little bit controversial. And at the same time, I cannot fit into my ethnic community, again, because I'm queer. It took me a long time to come to terms with those notions, but luckily I did, and they brought me to doing my PhD. In my PhD, I'm looking into what does it mean to be a queer refugee woman. So I'm looking into the lived experiences of myself and other women who are queer and come from refugee backgrounds, trying to understand both our loss, trauma and survival at the same time, trying to understand what is our life and how can we live it to the full potential without trying to fix ourselves in any ways. I don't like to talk about my refugee past, and I try to avoid telling that story to anyone. But when that comes up in the conversations, what I don't like is that it immediately reduces me to that singular identity. For many people, and fortunately for them, there is no real understanding of what violence means, or persecution, or any infringement of their body or rights, because for many of those, it's a very abstract notions that I've got from movies, or like media. But for many people from refugee backgrounds, these words actually have, bodily reactions. People need to understand people from refugee backgrounds come with a massive trauma. And for many, they just don't want to talk about that. And questions like that, they will only trigger some memories. So I think that this realization of that the whole conversation really needs to shift brought me to what I do now. Currently, I work at the Refugee Advice and Cashback Service, which is the longest running refugee legal centre in New South Wales. And I'm really proud to be part of the team who brings real changes to people's lives. The other day I came across a phrase that your home is where you stop running. So now living in Australia and calling this place my home, I really want to identify myself as Australian. I want to be able to function in a society on equal terms. I want to be able to say that I am Australian and no one will question that. Because sometimes when people ask me where I'm from and I joke and I say I'm from Newtown, they're like, oh no, you didn't understand my question, where are you from originally? I want to have a right to say that I'm Australian, and I want people to respect that right to identify that way. I think people don't understand that for us who come from refugee background, there is no place anymore to identify with. The place that we left does not exist anymore in the same way that it did before. So I think that what we all need is a place that we can call home right now. I'm blessed to be partner of the project director, so she made me join this project. Joking. It started as autobiographical reflection of our journey, and the more we were involved, the more we realized that in the current environment, we really need to give people hope. To people who, despite the odds and overcoming the most traumatic past, now need a future to believe in. I guess coming from peer perspective, we just want to say that yes, it is really hard to rebuild your life again, but everyone has the strength to do it. Also with this project, we really want to shift the discussion towards the hope and strength and survival, and stop parading victimhood and vulnerability of people from refugee backgrounds. We really want to celebrate their dignity.